I am Max, an orange cat who loves life. Ever since I was little, I knew I didn't want to be just an ordinary cat. My mom, Luna, gave me a warm home and plenty of food, but deep inside, I always had this feeling, a desire to explore the bigger world and become a cat like no other. I didn't want to spend my life just being comfortable. I wanted to prove that I could find my own path to greatness. One day, I finally got the courage to tell my mom, I'm leaving home to find my own life. Mom looked at me with a mix of worry and sadness, but she gently patted my head and said softly, no matter how far you go or what challenges you face, remember, you're special. Never give up. With her blessing, I set out on my journey. As soon as I stepped outside, I felt how big and unfamiliar the world really was. The streets were filled with cars and noisy people, and the buildings were cold and tall. It all made me feel a bit uneasy. But I knew my goal was out there, waiting for me to find it. Before long, I ran into my first real challenge. On the edge of the city, I came across a group of stray dogs. They were big and strong, especially the leader, a dog named Rex. He stared at me with cold eyes, clearly not happy to see me. This isn't a place for a little cat like you, he growled in a deep, threatening voice. Fear started to creep into my heart, but I knew that if I backed down now, I'd never reach my dreams. So, I stood tall, looked Rex in the eyes, and said firmly, I'm not going back. I'm going to find my own way. Rex seemed surprised by my response, but he still charged at me. I fought back with all my strength, even though he was much stronger than me. But my determination and courage made it hard for him to overpower me. That fight taught me that true strength doesn't come from muscles, it comes from having a strong heart. And Rex started to realize that fighting wasn't the only option. We were locked in a standoff until, finally, Rex stopped his attack. You're a special cat, he said, with a hint of respect in his voice. But don't think this is over. You've got a lot more challenges ahead. I knew I had earned his respect, but more importantly, I had earned my own. The real journey was just beginning, and I was ready for it. Over the next few days, I could feel Rex watching me from a distance, like he was keeping an eye on everything I did. But I didn't show any fear because I knew that fear would only make my opponents stronger. Then, one day, something unexpected happened. I was searching for food in an old, abandoned construction site when I heard a low moan. Following the sound, I found Rex trapped under some fallen rubble. For the first time, I saw fear and helplessness in his eyes. My instincts told me to walk away. After all, this dog had been my enemy. His problem wasn't mine. But something inside me wouldn't let me leave him there. Without hesitating, I rushed over and started digging through the heavy debris with all my might. Rex watched me, his eyes filled with a mix of emotions. When I finally freed him, I was completely exhausted. Rex lay there quietly, staring at me as if deep in thought. After a moment, he slowly got up, trembling a little, and nodded at me. Why did you save me? He asked in a low voice. Breathing heavily, I replied, because we're both travelers on our own journeys. I don't think we should be enemies. Rex was silent for a long time, then he sighed and said, You're stronger than I thought, little cat. Not because you saved me, but because you understand that working together is more powerful than fighting. His words surprised me. Working together? That was something I had never considered. I always thought that to be strong, you had to go it alone and face every challenge by yourself. But in that moment, I realized that true strength doesn't just come from courage and persistence, it also comes from those who are willing to stand by your side. Rex stood up slowly, his gaze now softened with respect. From now on, we're friends. We'll face the challenges ahead together. And by the way, Max sounds like the name of a hero. I was thrilled. I nodded, feeling the loneliness that had weighed on me suddenly lift. I knew that not only had I gained a strong ally, but I had also found new meaning in this journey. From that day on, Rex and I faced the dangers of the city together. I didn't feel alone anymore because I knew that no matter how tough things got, we could overcome them together. With Rex's strength and my cleverness, we became a great team, and our friendship grew stronger with every challenge. But as time went on, I realized that to become truly extraordinary, teamwork wasn't enough. I needed to push myself even further. I couldn't just be satisfied with finding enough food or avoiding danger every day. I knew I had to become even stronger, both in body and mind. Every morning, I woke up early and climbed to the highest point in the city, where I could see everything below. The cool, fresh air cleared my mind as I trained. I ran across rooftops to build speed and endurance. I practiced jumping and climbing to strengthen my legs. I even found some old books in a deserted library about survival and strategy. Even though they were written for humans, I learned a lot from them, like how to stay calm in tough situations and outsmart stronger opponents. With each day of training and thinking, I felt myself getting closer to the extraordinary life I dreamed of. I wasn't just relying on courage and teamwork anymore. I was starting to understand that true strength comes from a sharp mind as well as a strong body. One morning, Rex saw me training and asked, "Max, you're already so strong. Why do you push yourself so hard?" I stopped what I was doing and looked at him, smiling. Because I know that to rise above the ordinary, you can't just rely on what you have now. You have to keep challenging yourself to find the real path to greatness. Rex nodded, his eyes full of admiration and understanding. He knew I was right. Even though we had become stronger together, everyone has their own battles to fight and their own paths to follow. Day after day, I grew faster, stronger, and smarter. I was no longer the lost, scared little cat that had left home. I had become a cat who could face any challenge. Finally, one sunny morning, I stood on the highest point in the city, looking out over the world that had once seemed so unfamiliar. I realized I had found the secret to being extraordinary: never settle, always challenge yourself, and keep pushing beyond your limits. In that moment, I felt a peace and strength I had never known before. I understood that the path to greatness is made of countless small victories over yourself. I had achieved my dream. Not only had I become a strong cat, but I had also become the best version of myself.